How's it going, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from the Athlete Factors podcast. I'm here with my friend Abel Navarro. What's going on, Abel?
What's going on, Kevin? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, living the dream.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, I've known you, maybe 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, somewhere right around then. Yep.
Yep. So, we met through a mutual friend here in Dallas. And, let's just jump right in. What's your story? You're doing personal training now, but you weren't always
Correct.
doing that. So,
Correct.
jump in wherever you feel like it's most relevant, and just tell us how you got to what you're doing now.
Well, I guess high level. Let's just go back to high school. So, out of high school, I was undecided about where I wanted my career to go. It was either going to be business or becoming an athletic trainer. So I chose the business route. For one, it was a small D2 school, and I got a track scholarship there. So I ended up running track at Northwood University up in Midland, Michigan. So I ran for them for 4 years. Not the greatest career. I was had all kinds of weird injuries going on. We were in a bus accident once.
No way.
Our track bus was in an accident, and that put me out for like the whole season. And it was like impossible to get back after that because I lost so much time training from that injury because we all got slammed up into the seats in front of us. So it was kind of just this odd deal. Yeah. So just weird little things happening in my college career. So it wasn't the greatest. There was a lot going on. So yeah, some good stories there. Yeah. So I ended up going into banking for 18, 19 years. At that time, I met you while I was still in banking.
Mm-hmm.
You remember I was having hamstring issues. Like I kept pulling them like every other month, it seemed like. And it's been going on for a while. So, going to physical therapists, and I hate knocking anybody, but really they were only treating the hamstring injury itself. And it wasn't until I met you when you were like, dude, your hips are completely jacked up. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I haven't struggled with my hamstrings since then. So you kind of got me on the right path there. And that was one of the things that kind of drew me into the profession, I guess. Well, the other big thing is that I took a job at American Express, and my job was eliminated. So at that point, I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So I was working out with a buddy. He noticed he was getting better working out with me, and he was like, "Man, why don't you just do that?" And I'm like, "Do what?" He's like, "Why don't you train people?" Yeah, and I'm like, I had never really thought about it. So started looking at schools. I didn't want to just get some random, as you call it, Holiday Inn certificate. Yep. So
weekend cert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so I did some research, and there was a school in Orlando that sounded like it was going to be a good fit for me. I chose that one because they were offering this particular it was an additional certification working with kids. Well, when I got there to the school, they didn't have enough people to sign up for that additional one. So they ended up not having it. But the school itself was really a really good experience in the way it was structured. From day one, they put you in the client trainer mode. Like you were learning that from day one. So it was great from that aspect because it was really hands-on. It was 4 months long. So I went to the National Personal Training Institute here in Orlando, got offered a job my last week of school, and then I had to move here. And now I'm married and I'm rooted here, so I'm probably not going anywhere. So Orlando it is.
Yeah, why don't you tell everybody how you were sending me updates while you were in school there, talking about how all these young bucks coming in, like 18, 19, 20-year-old guys who thought they were the stuff, and you're in your 40s and just like making them look like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Well, with athletes, right? So what, half of a percent makes it to college, a half a percent of college athletes makes it to pros.
Something
So
like that.
you're
Yeah.
already in the upper echelon when you make it to college athletics, right?
Mhm.
Well, I mean, there was in my class anyways, there really wasn't anybody that had gone through college athletics. So
Mhm.
we had like 10 military guys that
Mhm.
were always thinking they were badass, and I'll give it to them, they were in good shape, but we as athletes, when you start making it to that next level, you have a little bit more. Even at an older age, we set ourselves apart, right?
Yeah,
We're not the high school athlete. We're more than that.
for sure.
So yeah, so I was, as we go through all these tests and different things, I was there. I was there at the top almost every single time, and
Yeah.
you know, and especially when it came, because we maxed out one week, and I'm still 40 years old, pushing almost 300 pounds, and and they were pretty shocked that I could still move that much weight,
Yeah.
for bench and squats and different things. I'm like, all right. I turn to him. Listen, you're lucky 22-year-old Abel isn't here, because then things would be like
You'd
a
be really
whole nother
embarrassed.
level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just kind of like sat there and didn't really say anything. I'm like, I'm just telling you, man. Like, I, I was in college athletics. I got another gear that you guys don't have. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You've been
yeah,
training a
absolutely.
long time.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
a lot of experience. So,
yeah. I never really stopped working out from college, right?
right.
I had some injuries, gained a little weight, but it's still there. I mean, the foundation's still there. I never
Yeah.
stopped. So yeah,
Yeah, that's one of those
absolutely.
things that people talk about all the time is like muscle memory and how it's this idea that I don't understand why people use it so often. I didn't really understand what it meant until I didn't understand. I started to scratch the surface of what I think it means once I got to grad school and we started talking about um, uh, the number of nuclei within a muscle cell and how muscle cells can be multinucleated. And so the more you train, you can, via satellite cell activation and proliferation, you can increase
Yeah,
the number of nuclei. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So even if you stop training, you still have that potential to get back to where you were faster or more efficiently. So maybe that plays into it. The movement patterns are still there. Maybe the software doesn't get used as much, but the neurological software is still there, and so it doesn't take as long to
right.
get back to it. So you have that and just the mindset, like the athletic mindset. If you're still training, it's gonna stay sharp. So
Yeah, yeah, and I'm competitive, so
yeah,
I don't want to especially going back to those school days, like you know I wanted to show them I didn't care what age I was, that I was going to be right there at the
yeah,
top. So
top of the class.
yeah, and again, going back to probably being in college athletics, I mean, we're more competitive probably than the average person, right? I mean, I can tell you, I hate losing. So,
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to lose.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
didn't I didn't really enjoy training very much in college cross country and track, but I loved racing and I
right?
hated losing. So I'm like, if I've got to go out and run 10 miles today so that I can smoke everybody come Saturday, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And even when I don't like it, I'm still gonna do it. It could be 3 feet of snow outside, and I'm still gonna do it. Like,
Yeah, exactly, right.
so,
Well, you were more distance oriented than I was. I was a middle distance guy. 400, 800,
mm,
especially my first 2 years, and then I dropped to 200, 400 my
mm,
last 2 years in college. So
long
I
sprint.
can do distance, but mentally, I'm a middle distance guy. Like, I don't want to run 50 to 80 miles a week. That's not me, man.
It wasn't me either, but I did it anyway.
No, that's like last year I did a half marathon for the first time in my life, only running 4 days a week, no more than 20 miles really. My longest week was the week of that half marathon. I've only put like 24 miles in.
Mm,
Yeah, so it was like 3 or 4 days in the gym,
yeah,
really just keeping the strength up, doing power work. So
yeah,
I found that benefited me more than putting in a million miles a week.
yeah. I think there's a spectrum where you can focus more on the performance in that sport by doing just that activity, and then spending time working on resiliency and injury reduction by working on the other side of the spectrum by being,
Yeah,
kind of in the weight room. And I think, um, yeah, sometimes an activity is more enjoyable when you're just not getting hurt.
yeah,
So
exactly,
I think
exactly.
there's a lot that can be said about spending extra time in the gym if your goal isn't to, get on the podium or break a record, then maybe running 5 to 7 days a week is not always the best plan.
Don't get me started on those endurance guys, because oh, dude, like it is.
It's half my
The,
clients,
the
so
debates that I get into with
yeah,
those guys, and most of them, like I'll give them credit for doing something. Like you're out there doing it,
yeah,
great, that's awesome. But you know, I even though you're running marathons, that doesn't mean you're an advanced runner. That's my
mm,
opinion. There's a lot of things that go into being an advanced runner, trying to get to the podium, trying to PR. If you're just trying to cross the line in a marathon, that's not an advanced runner to me.
mm,
You're not going through specific speed workouts or hill workouts or working on your form or breathing, or they're just not doing the things that it takes to get that much better. They're just
mm,
trying to cross the line.
mhm,
So I have that debate with a lot of people. I don't care how far you're running, that doesn't mean you're advanced. So
mm.
yeah, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but and that's the competitive side of me. Like if you're just trying to cross, then
Yeah,
good for you. I'm glad you're doing something in
sure.
in moving,
Yeah,
but I think you might be better spending your time doing other things as well. Like you said, going into the gym and working on the strength. I don't think a lot of endurance guys want to do that side of things, and it really sets them back, man. I hear this thing all the time where they're like, just got to run through the pain. Really? Do you really got to run through the pain? So what does that mean? You're going to be off for 8 months now because of running through the pain?
yeah,
Awesome. Good for you. When you could have taken a week off to recover and gotten back into it. Now you're off for a year or whatever. So awesome. Good
exactly.
luck with that.
That specific idea is extremely difficult because where's the line between running through, like, okay, endurance athletics it's a game of attrition. It's who can endure the most pain the longest. But there's a big difference between that kind of pain where you're just like, I've got to gut this out and I've got to go a little bit faster, a little bit longer, and the type of pain that's like, okay, there's obviously something wrong
Exactly. And
with
they're doing it
this.
for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, a
Yeah,
couple months. Like,
train
how
through
long are
and
you going to go through
yeah,
that?
yeah. You can't train through an injury the same way. Like you can't out train a bad diet. You can't out
Right.
train a movement issue that that is either currently a serious problem or will become a serious problem if you continue to do what you're doing.
And it's
So
probably been a problem for who knows how long if you're just
that's
now feeling it.
that's for sure. I just had a conversation the other day with one of my buddies who's a physical therapist, and he and I were discussing that specific issue. Like, if you're recognizing pain right now, like who knows how long that initiating cause or that primary
Yeah.
dysfunction has been happening to the point that you feel pain. Like pain is usually the last thing you feel. It's
Yeah,
not like,
exactly.
yeah, that's the body saying, okay, stop now because now you've done too much. It's not saying, oh, hey, there could be a problem if
Yeah, exactly.
If you pay attention to this, there might be a problem, or if you ignore it, it might go away. Like the body's not really good at doing that stuff.
No,
But
no, it's not. It's like it's happening now, so stop. Yeah.
yeah, so well, yeah, that's one of those funny things with endurance athletes and
I know.
have
It's like
man.
the other thing. Sorry to interrupt, cut you off, but
No, go ahead.
the other thing with those guys is the fluke injury. Like really, a fluke
Yeah,
injury.
yeah.
You jack your knee up on some fluke movement. Do you train your body to move that way? Do you load your body to move that way? I doubt it. So is it
Yeah.
really a fluke?
No,
I hate that term.
yeah, it's not a fluke if you're doing nothing to prevent it.
Yeah.
Like
Like all you guys
it's
do is move
inevitable.
forward. You don't move
Yeah,
lateral. You don't move
exactly.
backward.
Yeah, you're not moving. Your body is designed to move in 3 dimensions, and you're forcing it to go way over the top in just one plane of motion.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
body is not going to respond well to that. So, that's crazy. But alrighty. So, what's your personal training schedule like? Is it the typical training schedule where you've got like an early morning block and then some time off and then an afternoons or evening block?
It right now, I mean, it probably will be that. Right now, it's kind of 3 days a week. It's more morning block and well, I should say mostly morning blocks. I have a lot of my afternoon evenings free at this point. I'm just starting on my own thing. I spent 2 years working for a corporate health and wellness company and split from them in December. So I'm just kind of getting on my own at this point. So just kind of building
Gotcha.
clients. So eventually it probably will be those morning and evening blocks, but I'm not quite there yet. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the tough things that nobody told me when I was in school for ex-phys, that, hey, if you're going to do any personal training, be prepared to work mostly during the hours when everyone else isn't working. So you're going to get the majority of your clients before 9 a.m. and,
Yeah, right.
and after 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, early mornings, like now it's normal. Like it's
Yeah.
4:30 a.m. Like that's when I get up. Like sometimes I get up before the alarm goes off at 4:20, and I'm just like, oh, okay, all right, here we go.
That
So
was the great thing about National Personal Training Institute, because they did prepare you. They like it well, in the early ons. They were like, you're not going to be working the normal 9 to 5 shift. This is going to be probably like 5 in the morning till 9, and then you're going to have to go back from like 4 until 8 at night. So I mean, just get used to it. That's what it's going to be. So if you're going to do this, then get ready. So
yeah, get good at naps, midday naps.
Exactly. Well, and the funny thing, it works out well because that's when I get my workout in.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the day, like noon, 1 o'clock. And it's great because that's when I feel my best, anyways.
Yeah.
So I feel my strongest at that point. So I get quality workouts in myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. If you're not planning that out, that's another thing. If you don't plan it out, it's probably not going to happen. Like I could not believe when I worked in the corporate setting, there were so few trainers who actually would work out. Like, it blew my mind. And I was like, you guys don't, like, even just like 2 to 3 times a week? Like, that's pretty much all I do. Like, most weeks, I'm working out 3 times a week. There's parts of the year. During the winter, it's a whole lot easier for me to train every day. During the summer, like, it's so hot here. I don't want to work out every day. So
running is out?
Yeah. And like during the summer, my appetite goes down. All I want to do is just like drink tea all day, every day. So it's like, it's a little
Don't
bit
lose
hard.
that muscle mass, man.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I try to keep the protein high, and I still will work out, but it might only be 3 times a week. So, but yeah, like there's trainers who they get to the end of the day and they're like, the last thing I want to do right now is spend another hour here.
Yeah.
So they just
absolutely
they intend to train when they get off work, and then they never do. And it's tough, man. It's
yeah. Well, we motivate all day, and it's draining, right? So
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. Like,
yeah, it is. It's draining mentally.
Yeah.
I have partnered up with another trainer. So during my strength days and power days, I work out with another trainer. So we keep each other motivated. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Running is done primarily on my own, which is hard. And it stinks here because in Florida, dude, I have not found a track to actually run on. Like I'm doing all these like speed workouts on the streets essentially because there's like nowhere for me to train. They lock everything down here. Like
really,
it's just terrible. Yeah, I haven't found anything.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't open anything to the public. Yeah, it's crazy. I know. It's like I'm trying to get ready for a track and I have no track to train on. It's just miserable.
Well, sounds like my high school days. We would do loops through our high school, running upstairs, running down a hall, run downstairs, run back the other hall, and we didn't have a track, so that's what we did.
Ooh, yeah, that's rough.
Or we would bus to a university not too far down the road, and
that's cool.
Yeah, but that was never fun. Busing to the track.
No.
But anyway, so tell us a few things that you like about the personal training profession, and what are some things that you dislike?
Things I like is, a lot of people aren't motivated, so they come to us, right, for the motivation. They don't hold themselves accountable, so we're there for that. So I do my best to keep them motivated to keep coming back. And man, the thing I don't like about it, I see some trainers, they're on their phone, all they're doing is sitting there, they're not paying attention to their client. Like, my phone never comes out of my pocket when I'm with somebody. Like I'm all about them. Like I want them to know that I'm 100% with them during that time and not distracted by something. Like I see that so much, man. People just sit there. They're just sitting there too. Like not standing. They're not doing anything. They just sit down and watch their guys. Like, and then they're on the phone. Like, how are you training that guy? Like, awesome, I guess.
Why would that person continue to pay that trainer?
I don't get it. Yeah, and they do. You see it over and over. Like I've been at this one private gym for a couple of years now. I was, again, it was part of the corporate wellness thing I was doing, but now I stayed on there. And for years I've seen the same thing with some of the trainers. Like, get off your phone, man. Pay attention to your clients. I don't get it. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
I hate seeing that.
When I was working at Gold's Gym in Waco during grad school, there was a trainer there who he would literally play fetch with his clients. So we had this super long, wide hallway, and so he would get one of those big, like they're like the Kevlar medicine balls that you can slam, and they last pretty long because the fabric's really tough. Well, he would get the heaviest one he could, and he would throw it down the hall, and he'd say, "All right, go get it, bring it back." And so his client would run down the hall and
oh my goodness,
get it and bring it back, and he'd say, "All right, we're gonna do 10 of these," and he'd throw it, and as soon as he'd throw it, boom. Alrighty, let's start scrolling. And he'd be on his phone. He'd be immediately after throwing, he'd be on his phone, and they'd come back and he'd be like, "Oh, okay," and he'd put it back in his pocket and take it and throw it down. "All right, go get it." And he would do that, and that was the workout. And I was just like, all right, like it's clever. It's clever.
If you're lazy, that's clever.
Exactly. It's ingenious if your goal is to get paid to be on your phone. But I don't think his clients got very good results. And
I'm assuming probably not if they did the same stuff every time. And that's another thing I see. I see trainers, and I know exactly what they're going to do at every moment. I know the rep counts. I know exactly what they're going to do with their clients the whole way through. It's like, dude, you need to change things up, man, because how is your client going to respond to the same thing over and over on the same days? It's not going to go well.
Yeah. you've gotta get, progressive overload somehow. You need variety. Like, I understand, like, if you're training for a specific goal, then the training has to be specific. But the body is really good at adapting in
Yes.
with 6 to 8 weeks, anything you do will work. But then after that, there has to be a change. And like, I feel like one of the reasons that most people outside of the realm of just the motivational aspect, one of the biggest reasons that people come to a personal trainer is because their progress is stalled. They
Yeah,
either don't know what
absolutely.
to do, or they can't motivate themselves and be disciplined, or they can't continue to make progress. And the biggest issue I see there is, we'll just add more weight, right? Just put more weight on the bar. Like, there's a million variables that you can play with.
Yes,
Try
absolutely.
try keeping the weight the same. Try adjusting your rep range. Try changing up the sets. Try working in different rest periods. Change the rest periods.
Even the tempo, man, of how you're
Exactly.
moving the weight, like that's huge.
Contraction speed, eccentric versus concentric. Like, I'm doing a ton right now with a lot of my clients where we're working like a 5 to 6 second eccentric phase. I don't care. They can go as fast as they want on the concentric part. But like, so if we're doing squats, then they're super lightweight. Sometimes it's just a band around their knees because they've never done this before, and it is
Yeah.
destroying them. It's amazing. They love it. They love it, right? So a band around their knees. They're squatting down to a box as slow as they can with as perfect technique as possible, driving the knees out, preventing the knees from caving in.
Yep.
6 seconds. And the first time they do it in like 2 seconds, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was awful." And I'm like, "That was
You gotta slow it down.
yeah, that was way too fast." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "As slow as possible while still moving." And eventually, after a set or two, they get it, and they're like, "We're only doing 5 reps of this, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because you can only do 5 reps." Like, so playing with variables is like the best way to keep your client guessing, which
Absolutely.
is super helpful. And then, yeah, having some sort of plan where you've thought this out in advance. One of the other things that, like, there's a time and place for changing things up on the fly, and you have to be
Yeah,
able to do that. But
absolutely.
if you don't have a plan set up ahead of time, then you're going to end up like in the same rut. You're going to end up doing the same things, same
Yeah.
sets, same reps, same exercises, and that just gets super old. So,
Yeah, and I don't know how you do it, but I as far as your programming, but with my clients, we're going to spend some time with stability and mobility right off the bat.
mm,
Now, I might progress you faster depending on where I think you are, but for those that are, um, not in the best of shape, just starting out, haven't done anything for a long time, we're probably going to spend 2 good months doing that.
yeah,
Just working on that and kind of building you back up because
you're
you've
probably
let
going to feel
yourself
better.
go. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
so we're going to spend some time doing that before we get into getting heavier weights and into that strength phase, and then we'll see how long that takes. But yeah, I think a lot of trainers just want to go gung ho right off the bat. Like people can't do power when they haven't done anything in years. You
right.
can't throw power moves at them. They can't. They're not ready for it.
Exactly.
And I
They're
think that's
too.
why a lot of people get hurt doing CrossFit because they're
Mm,
not ready for those power moves. They're just not.
mm, yeah, the base just isn't there. You
Yeah.
need you need a conditioning base so that you can accumulate volume. You need a basic like, you need to have functional range of motion. And I was listening to a podcast the other day that a friend recommended, where these guys were talking about the best way to improve functional range of motion is to just load a movement. So if
Okay. Yeah.
if if you're stiff in the squat, you think you don't have good range of motion in the squat, then just add more weight and you'll improve your range of motion. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but nobody else who's hearing this, who doesn't have a background in this, is going to understand what you mean. They're going to load up heavy, reduce their range of motion and not improve their functional range of motion. Like it's going to limit their range of motion, if
Right.
anything. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
they'll get stronger in that range of motion, which is good, but
It's not going to be very big range of motion.
exactly. So if you're not spending the time, like one of the things that I think is super helpful just about spending time working on stability and mobility is you're improving your client's body awareness in space. Like
Absolutely.
they're not they're not aware of what their body is doing 99% of the day because
Right.
they don't have to, right? So just spending some time working um, on doing some rolling, on doing some mobility work, figuring out where they're tight, and spending time where they're addressing that, even if it doesn't actually make any improvement, which I'm not even saying that that's the case because I think a lot of times it does improve their functional range of motion. But even if it
Yeah.
doesn't, you've improved their body awareness, and that's going to help when you do progress to things like squatting, deadlifting, rack pulls, hip thrusts, cleans, medicine ball
Absolutely.
slams, more power-based movements. So, yeah, no, I think that's a good way to do it. Spending some time working on the stuff that they're not going to do on their own.
No, they're not. Yeah,
You got to
absolutely.
kind of have to force them to do it. You got to take them by the hand and say, "Hey, you're not ready for this meat yet. You need a little bit of baby food, and then we'll
Exactly.
work some meat in as it's appropriate." So, no, I think that's really wise to start that way before you know.
Yeah. I mean, in everybody's different too. Like
Mm,
if somebody moves really well, you might be able to progress them quicker, but that you
hmm
need to start somewhere. And I
Yeah.
see, man, even this morning, I was at the gym and I'm seeing some trainer with his guy doing some things, and I'm like, the guy physically can't do that. Why are you having him
Mm,
do this? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I hope he doesn't get hurt because man, he is struggling hard, and you're just pushing him to do this movement that he can't do right now. So,
mm.
but it's like, what do you do? You can't really say anything, or do you? I guess like I don't know.
Yeah. That's a tough one. Like where that's so hard in an industry where you're not supposed to help out other trainers because that's your
Yeah,
quote unquote competition. But when when you get to the point where you're like, okay, if I help this guy, then down the road I might need some help, and hopefully if I go about this the right way and not doing it on the floor in front of everybody, but maybe saying,
right. Yeah,
hey man, I noticed that you're training this new guy, and you're getting him motivated to do stuff he's never done. Maybe like I had a client, similar situation, and I found that um, they were starting to have some issues here and here because they just weren't ready for that yet. So here's what I did. Maybe that would be useful for you. And if they take that information and do something with it, then awesome. But
yeah, yeah.
sometimes like the ego is just like it's a
Oh
and
man,
you're
our
just gonna
industry
get
is
through it.
bad with ego. Yeah, actually, yeah, it's really bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They don't want to. People don't want to hear
No, people like I know everything I need to know. I know what's
it.
best for my clients. Butt out. I know you're just trying to take my clients. You're trying to mess with my money.
Yeah, yes, that's
And
exactly what they
no,
think
I
too.
really like I can get clients. Like when you understand that the issue is never a shortage of clients, it's a shortage of competency. And when
Exactly.
you're willing to put yourself out there and say, hey, I think this would help you, I think this will actually help you get more success or better results with your clients, and like take it or leave it, but I'm not doing this to like sabotage you or hurt you. I'm only doing it to help you. And when they realize that and take that and do something with it, then they're gonna then say, hey, my buddy Abel over here showed me how to do this, and
Yeah,
it only makes
that's a good
it only
approach.
helps.
I should think about doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but there's shoot, man, there was probably about 50 million times that I didn't do that.
Right?
I was just like,
You're like,
that trainer's an idiot. Like, or I'm sure it was the other way around. Somebody was like, what is this kid doing? Like, why is he doing? And they probably told me, hey, why don't you try doing this? And I'm like, okay, what? Thanks. And then like,
Exactly.
I'm not gonna do that. Like, so it takes time to figure that out, and
Yeah, tax. Again, I've only been in
tough.
this industry for 3 years, so I'm still learning. I can admit I'm still learning things, and I'm like a sponge. I've taken all kinds of certs just to learn things.
Yeah, I'm still
I know
learning,
I know
man.
I don't know everything, but I know
Yeah.
there are basic things people need to do to progress. Um, it just has to be that way. You can't just put somebody in some movement patterns that they physically cannot do.
Mhm.
I can see that at least. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a tough one. Like having to, I've had a few CrossFit athletes come to me just because they were in a state where they felt like they couldn't continue doing CrossFit. Like they were just getting worn down. And like there's good CrossFit coaches, there's bad CrossFit coaches. Like I have to say this
yes,
all the time now because I have
yeah,
to remind myself like there are good personal trainers, there's bad
yeah,
personal trainers, good dietitians, there's bad dietitians, there's good physical therapists, there's bad physical therapists. There's good strength coaches, there's bad strength coaches. I've seen it all. So, but um having to reteach a CrossFitter how to squat is like initially it was like pulling teeth. Like they were fighting me the whole time. Like, no, no, I know how to squat. I know how to deadlift. I know how to clean. I know how to do pulls. I know how to do everything. And I'm like, okay, I understand that you can do those movements, but our definition of what that movement is not the same. And
right.
that doesn't I'm not telling you that you're not fit. I'm not telling you that you aren't good at doing those things at CrossFit. All I'm saying is if you let me teach you how to do it a different way, then you might be able to do all those things at CrossFit pain free. And they're like, I like that idea, but I don't like having to relearn how to do something that I think I already know how to do. And like it can be rough, but after a couple sessions, they're usually like where I make them do like these 6 second eccentric squats. They're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I've never felt my glutes before in a squat." And I'm
you
like,
should be feeling your glutes all the time.
"Yeah, exactly." I'm like, "Well, do you think that's a problem? Maybe that's why your knees hurt all the time? How
Yeah.
do your knees feel right now?" I'm like, "Oh, they feel great right now." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, then let's do this some more and then let's progressively get some overload. And then maybe in 6 or 8 weeks, we can work back into some CrossFit training and see how things go." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe I can get on board with that." So, but sometimes it's like pulling teeth, man.
Uh,
Even when they
yeah.
know it's like, yeah, I have to do this. This will help me out. It's still difficult. It's egos everywhere. Egos everywhere. Like
Yes,
it's human
yes.
nature.
It is human
So
nature. I'd probably be fighting it too.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure I would be fighting it. Like it's and most of the time, those people are former athletes
Yeah, exactly
who have,
right.
who have trained through pain, who have been like, nah, I've got to do it. I have to finish the workout. Otherwise, it's that mentality where if I don't finish,
Yeah,
then I'm not
yeah,
going to play. And so it's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to get through it. And the body is designed to adapt and to compensate when it has to. So, yeah, your body's going to find a way to get you through it. It's not
yeah.
always pretty. And sometimes it's results in, a lot of downtime or
Exactly.
surgery, but God forbid. But yeah. So, um, so where do
Yeah,
you,
no surgery.
yeah, exactly. I'm not a fan of that. So
No.
unless it's absolutely necessary, but,
Yeah.
uh, luckily for me, that's not my call.
Yeah, right.
That's
Exactly.
else. So,
Yeah, exactly.
um, so that kind of leads us. That's actually a decent segue to this next part. So, where does personal training fit into the realm of athletic performance, sport performance, or just training for sport in general, and that can be a youth athlete for a high school sport or college sport, or somebody who's training for their first 5K. Where does personal training kind of fit into that realm?
I think it's huge. You know, and you have athletes at all levels. Like, for example, I have some guys that are in their 80s that I train at this other company that I work for. I do some part-time work, and they're coming to us to get better for golf.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. So these are golfers in their 80s looking to get better, to improve their game in their 80s. Like,
Nice.
so as with, with golfers, because they work on one side all the time,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of muscle imbalances, because they're just working one side all the time. So we're really trying to balance things out for those folks, getting them to move the other side, and getting that other side just as strong. So, and a lot of times, going back to the golfers, they don't know how to move their hips well. Like the
that lumbar spine gets a lot of rotation.
Yeah. Well, and the acceleration factor, and there's all. I mean, the hips are. When it comes to sports, man, the hips are like key, I think, right? You take basketball players, the guy that can accelerate that hip extension is probably going to be jumping higher than everybody else. Or guys that run, you accelerate that hip extension faster, you're probably going to be faster than everybody else. Yeah, or long jumping further than everybody else. So we're just trying to get people to be aware of their hips a lot of times. Yeah, and what you can do with them. I'd say that's one of the biggest areas we work on. Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, we as a culture, we sit all the time. We're in hip flexion all the time.
All the time, yeah.
And so if you're not training hip extension, like max effort hip extension, but also some speed-based hip extension, like it's hard to be athletic if you can't extend your hips together, like in jumps or one side at a time, like with running. Because running, like, how many sports can you name that don't involve running in some form or fashion? Like, okay, swimming doesn't. Okay, that's one, but you're still doing hip extension.
Yeah. That's so, like, essentially running almost. Yeah. I mean,
every other sport involves some aspect of running. So if you can't extend the hips, like they say speed kills. Like, you got to be fast to be good at sports. So
exactly,
hip extension it's number one.
Exactly. Yeah. now golf, going back to the golfers, obviously there's no running, but man, the way they move their hips, it's faster than any other sport, really. Just the way they have to move through and swing through the ball they create all that power through the hips, and I can't remember where I read it, but they said it was actually faster than any other sport. I'm not sure what the speed was per se, but they move their hips quicker than anybody else. Yeah,
when you're turning the shoulders, spine, and hips into like this like loaded spring, but it's a rotating spring. Like, you're trying to get the line of your shoulders to like create an X with the line of your hips, and the spine is like twisted in between, and then it's like you're like rolling up a yo-yo and then just like throwing it as fast as you can. Like, you're getting that like whip action, and that's what generates the power on the head of the club to get that ball moving.
Exactly.
That's a ton of force, and
it is. Yeah.
It's uniquely different than just about every other sport. Like, even the baseball swing, there's similarities. Or like softball swing, there's similarities, but it's not the same. Like, golf is very different.
They really wind up to do it. Yeah, in baseball, you're not going to see somebody really wind up behind themselves to swing the bat. They just don't do that. They don't have enough time to do that.
That's the truth.
With the ball coming at them at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. You got to get that bat right here real quick.
Yeah.
So, That's really interesting. So one of the things that that I noticed when I was early on in my personal training career was kind of the thing that you alluded to close to the beginning. Like, there are so few high school athletes who are then college athletes, and there are
Yes.
so few college athletes who become professional athletes.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to compete at some level, and
Yes, they do.
so you can't, like, people don't either have access to or they can't afford a professional strength coach,
Right.
who's
Yeah.
so, like, the personal trainer can fit perfectly into that niche where somebody who's never done a 5K before, or a half marathon or marathon, or somebody who's never done a Spartan race, or somebody who's never, like, pick the sport. If they've never done it, or even if they have done it but they want to improve, like, that's where the personal trainer can come in and address that need, and say,
Yes.
okay, like, yeah, I'll make you better at this, but I'll also help prevent injury because I'll make you more resilient. You'll be able to accumulate more training volume because you're not going to be stuck in the same plane of motion all the time. So I think
Exactly.
that's a huge area that I think is, people talk about that, like every single personal trainer I worked with, either at Gold's or LA Fitness or wherever, like, I've pretty much worked at all of them. They all said, "Oh yeah, I specialize in sport performance," and I'm like,
Really?
"What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by that?" Because, like, you're training your clients the same way you train yourself, and you don't do any sports, so,
Yeah,
like,
right.
you have to. There's an aspect of just general strength training that may have some overlap into injury prevention, but you gotta view each client as an individual, and when you do that, I
Absolutely.
think, yeah, you can. And also, I think it's good to work with a variety of clients, not just people who are, just kind of a cookie cutter of your last client. Like, they all have the same goal, they all do the same things, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
different ages. 80-year-olds trying to get better at golf.
I
That would
know. Actually, we got
It's
I
phenomenal.
don't really train him, but we got a 92-year-old guy that comes in specifically for golf.
That's
I
awesome.
don't train him, but he's there. He's at the
Yeah.
gym, man. It's like, wow, this dude's 92 years old and he's still in the gym and he still wants to play golf. That
Incredible.
is freaking awesome.
Well, the nice thing about golf is so much of it is skill based that you can get better at it as you age.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
there's a pretty big drop off with, you know, sprinting as you age. Like, you
Yes.
can't
Yeah.
get better every year, but there's certain things that you can do and get better at, even, as you age. So, and then, I'm sure that you're taking things that you're learning from, that elderly, quote unquote, elderly population of golfers that you're
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
apply elsewhere. And that's another thing that I think most personal trainers, they're not using the bodies they have in front of them to learn anything.
Yeah,
It's like,
right. Yeah.
you don't
Exactly.
you don't have to always crack open a book to learn something new. Like, if you're paying attention, if you're attentive, if you're not on your phone,
Exactly. Don't be on your phone.
exactly, then you know, you have an essentially unlimited supply of potential educational material right in front of you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I totally agree with you on that one.
so
Yep. Yeah, and that's like, going back to what you said with people not having access or not having the funds to have personal trainers to get better, especially high school athletes or youth athletes. My nephew is a soccer player, so while I'm not there in Michigan with him, at least I can program. My
mm,
brother goes with him to the gym. We'll FaceTime and
yep,
stuff, so I know what he's doing. And he's getting stronger, man. He's getting stronger. And it's going to make it. I mean, he's only in the eighth grade, so I got 4 years with him.
mm-hmm,
Um, to see where this goes, and you know, his goal is to play college soccer. So that's what our goals are at this point. We got 4 years to do this. So
Yeah,
yeah, but
that's awesome.
he's getting better already. Yeah.
Yeah, and as long as he's consistent and you know stays motivated and understands that you know the the return on this investment isn't going to come tomorrow.
No.
It's a 4-year process, and
Yeah.
that's to get into that next level, and then training doesn't stop then. You know, like
No.
he's gotta, but that'll give him such a solid base for collegiate strength and conditioning and
Yeah,
collegiate
absolutely.
sports in general. Like that's really awesome. So
Yeah, yeah, and it made my day. You know, a couple weeks ago, he was like, man, when I'm out of school, let's go into business together. I like what you do. I want to do that too.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's incredible. That cracks me up. My nephew, I do a little bit of that with him, although it gets really difficult because he's playing sports year round. So
Yeah,
he's doing
absolutely.
cross country and basketball and track and summer basketball and training for cross country during the summer. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's a lot. I
constant.
know. Yeah.
So we try to do a little bit of that, but um, every summer he comes down to to Texas, and we spend I try to spend a week with him, just like this is what I want you to focus on this next year. Like these are the weaknesses. Don't worry about your strengths. You're already good at that. Just focus
Yeah,
on these
exactly.
areas.
Yeah.
And he goes and he's consistent in the gym, as much as he can be, and he's getting stronger. And my sister a while back was like asking him like, hey, what are you thinking about, your future, like college wise? What, maybe what do you want to major in? And he's like, I think what Uncle Kev does is pretty interesting. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's
Exactly right.
cool. Yeah. So that's funny. When
Yeah.
people have a solid example of what a professional in this industry can be like, that it's not just, this idealized idea of, oh, you're gonna like either train celebrities or you're gonna be working with
Oh, right.
Olympic
Yeah.
level athletes all day. Like that, it's not gonna happen. Like
No, it's
everybody
not.
wants to do that, and really nobody gets to. So very few get to do that. So
Yeah.
um but yeah.
And that was never my thing. I realized there are so many other people that need more help than
Mhm.
those top level athletes. And I mean, how many of those guys are you going to work with in your lifetime anyways? Probably not many, if any.
Mhm.
But think about the population of the 40 to 70-year-olds that
Mhm.
need help. They've been sitting down at a desk for
Their
their
whole life.
entire lives.
Yeah.
Those are the people that need help.
Yeah.
Those are the people I want to help.
Nice. So would you say that that's kind of, is that your niche? Is that where you feel like this is where I can reach the most people and do the most good? Is that kind of
I think so. And I think my background gives me an advantage because I spent 20 years in that same position. I
mm,
was there. I can empathize. I know the stresses. I know the deadlines they're going through.
yeah.
I can talk shop with them.
Hmm.
I get what they're about. I get what they're going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I relate a lot more than some 22-year-old that's
Hmm.
only done this and maybe not that well at that. So, but
Wasn't
they're
at the
not
top of their class.
gonna, they're not gonna be able to talk to them the same, I don't think. And
Yeah.
I think
Can't
people,
relate.
yeah, people like that about me. It's like I can talk with them.
Mm,
You know, I'll talk with them as now. Don't get me wrong, we're gonna do what we need to do, but that rest period where I can talk to them about different things and not just random crap. So
yeah.
yeah.
Did you see what Kim Kardashian just
Yeah,
did?
exactly.
Yeah. I just saw it because I wasn't paying attention to you. I was looking at my phone.
Right. Yeah. Put the phone
Yeah.
away, people.
Yeah. Don't be that kind of trainer. So, um, this is kind of the question that I've been asking kind of the guests as they come on, specifically about their profession. So
Okay.
how do you pick a good or competent personal trainer?
Personal trainer?
Yeah. How do you pick somebody who you know is gonna get the job done, who's not gonna spend half the session on their phone talking about Kim Kardashian?
Man, yeah, I guess you never know when the phone's going to come out when you initially talk to somebody, but I think if you meet somebody and they're not spending some time up front, if they just jump into things without assessing you, and going through the things that they need to learn about you and some of your background, injuries, history, any of that stuff, you don't want to be with that guy. They don't care about you.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think you want to be with somebody who's going to take the time, assess some of your movement patterns, and try and get those better. That stuff needs to be done up front. So before you even start training, how do I know that this guy can even do a squat without assessing him in some kind of squat? I'm not just going to load up some weight and give him some weight and say, here you go.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Find somebody that'll spend some time up front, in a full consultation, be it an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. But they need to spend some time with you first before you get into a workout.
Yeah, figuring out what your goals are, what things you like to do, what things you don't like to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That was one of the biggest things I found was like I'd have clients, they were like, I don't want to squat. And I'm like, okay, well, my philosophy of training is that everyone should squat. So do I fight them on this and say, no, you're gonna squat and you're gonna like it? Or do I say, okay, well, why don't they like to squat? Ask them, why don't you like to squat?
Exactly.
Oh, well, it always hurts my knees. Okay, well, then let's avoid that movement pattern. And as we get better at other movement patterns, maybe we'll slowly introduce that in, but we'll do it in a way that is always in a pain-free setting. Like if it hurts, then we'll drop it. But let's figure out, taking the time to get to know your client and
absolutely.
And you can't do that if you're not assessing. So I think that you're exactly right, Abel. Like it has to be, you have to get to know them, not just like their personality, what they like, what their goals are, but you have to get to know their body.
I love seeing the trainers that so people tend not to have the greatest ankle mobility, right? Which means they're not going to squat very low. And you hear these trainers get lower. They're yelling at them like,
heels
they can't physically get lower, dude. Like they can't do it. Like, can you not see that?
Like I'm getting low. Like it's not the kind of way you need to be getting low. Their spine's like,
yeah, right.
You don't want that.
No, you don't want that.
No, it's ridiculous. So
absolutely,
it's so important to assess. Like I cannot stress that point enough. If you're not assessing, then you're guessing. And if you're guessing,
no, absolutely.
How do you know that what you're going to do is even remotely helpful?
Exactly. So, you might as well just pack it up and do something else because you're going to hurt somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're not going to get referrals. They're not going to renew. They're not going to keep coming back to you. And you better believe they're going to tell all their friends
exactly
not to come see you.
Exactly. Yeah, that will hurt the reputation big time.
That's for sure. So what's one piece of advice that that you would give to yourself, let's say, a couple years back before, first day of personal training school? What's some advice that you would have given yourself?
Go into this knowing you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You don't know anything. as athletes, we think we know everything, right? That's the mentality we have growing up. And it was eye-opening to see that I didn't know anything. Like, yeah, yeah, man. It's like,
got to keep
like,
learning.
Exactly. You got to keep
never
learning.
be done. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
So, how about any advice for anyone listening right now? It could be life advice, personal training advice, career advice, whatever the case may be.
I think a couple things. I think life advice, and going back to some of my own experiences, is like, especially working in the corporate world, I didn't realize how stressed I was all the time. Like, people need to figure out how to de-stress. That'll be so beneficial for them in their overall health, to de-stress. Just figure it out. You got to spend some time not stressing, relax the mind, getting away from things, because man, you don't realize how bad stress is for the body until it's too late.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big one. I'm dealing with some clients right now on that, because they're just stressed to the max, and we're trying to figure out ways to like get those stress levels down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because sometimes training for some people is an amazing stress reliever. And for other clients, it's like, no. Like, so you got to figure out, you got to be creative. You got to figure out something to do that so they don't feel like they're wasting their time there, and they're wasting their time paying you, but like you still have to improve their overall quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
while I don't practice meditation myself, I'm working with one client to get her meditating. We think her mind is just so wound up all the time that we need to like get her to like stop thinking about things. So she's going to start doing that, I think, pretty soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling her to do it now, but I can't make somebody meditate, right? So
yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, we can't make people do things. We give them homework, and they're probably not going to do it. So you can't make anybody do anything. You can't make them eat healthy. You can only recommend things and habits and stuff, but they actually have to pull the trigger on all that stuff. So yeah,
that's the truth. And that might mean, like, this is one thing that I've done with a client is the first 5 minutes of the session, like, hey, go sit in that corner, pretend I'm not here. I'm gonna shut the music off. I'm gonna turn off the lights. Just do whatever you got to do to like get into a mindset where you feel like you can breathe and just relax a minute. And when you're ready, we'll work out. And sometimes that's super helpful. Sometimes like it doesn't.
Everybody's different, right?
Exactly. Sometimes they're so wound up, they're like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, all right,
and that silence probably makes it worse for them. Like, it just drags on forever. Probably
they can't clear their minds. So, but like there's a time and a place for that, and figuring out, it's just, if you're adding tools to the toolbox, then you'll probably always have something useful when the time comes for, and you need something, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the truth. So, Abel, if anybody is in Orlando and they need a personal trainer, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I work in two places. So one is Smart Fitness, and that's in Ocoee. So you can visit us in Ocoee. We're right there on McGuire Road, right next to the Publix. And again, I'm just starting my own thing as well, Able Body Wellness. So I'm relatively new. I don't even have a website yet. I am on Instagram. I don't have a business Facebook page, but that stuff is all kind of in the works. I'm going to spend the next few months kind of ramping up my own little project there and trying to build that. That's kind of where I want to be. I see the most flexibility there, but I can be reached at ablebodywellness@gmail.com if you want to reach out to me there. Just get a hold of me. That'd be wonderful. I want to help make people move better, feel better. That's what we're all about, right?
For
Building
sure.
muscle, losing fat, feeling good.
Those are three good things. So,
Exactly.
yeah, everybody go follow Abel on Instagram because he's putting out some high quality posts, and hopefully they'll be a lot more consistent.
Yes, I know. I just got married, so it's
Hey,
been
you got an
inconsistent for
excuse.
the last 6 weeks. So
You got
I
an excuse.
apologize to those people. I got to start posting a little bit more. I
Yeah,
get that.
but yeah, check out the one um about toes and about the foot. Like I thought that one was really interesting. Um, but yeah, like you're bringing awareness to a topic that's often avoided, which is feet, and
Yes, absolutely.
like everything everything has to go through the foot.
Exactly.
Like it's the first thing to touch the ground. It's that's where all force transfers through if you're doing any sort of closed chain exercise, running, pushing, squatting, deadlifting, regardless, lunging, everything
Absolutely.
goes to the foot. So
The thing is like we're in shoes so much that we don't really ground ourselves to the ground. You know, we're not grounded anymore. We're always in something. So we're not
fickle cushion
Yeah,
and
we're
yeah.
not working those muscles in our feet like ever anymore. So I actually like to do my warm ups barefooted in socks at the very minimum, but
Yeah.
just so I'm working on those muscles of the feet. So yeah, absolutely, I recommend that people start doing that.
If you don't use it, you lose it. That's what they
Exactly.
say. So so I think that's a pretty good place to finish. Abel, thank you so much for taking the time
Thank
to do this. This was
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man.
yeah, it's a great conversation, and I'm sure we'll have many more in the future. So
Yeah, I
um,
would love to be back.
awesome, awesome. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you on the next one. All right, y'all, take care.